Start a Therapy Practice Podcast, episode number 28. Welcome to the Start a Therapy Practice Podcast. I am Scott Harmon, occupational therapist and private practice clinic owner. I love to podcast and talk about starting and running a therapy practice, and I want to encourage you and inform you on how to do just this. Today we're going to talk to Paul Potter. He's a physical therapist and has been in private practice for over 30 years. Paul is what I would call one of those white hat guys. He's one of the good guys. I really enjoyed talking to Paul and visiting with him. He has a great work ethic and just a very good guy, good character, and very helpful. First, I want to cover a few things. I want to apologize for not having an episode for a little while. I've been busy moving one of my therapy clinics, and it's sort of like moving your house. You don't realize how much stuff you have until you have to touch each individual object and move it. It was more work than I thought it would be, but it's going to pay off. So I hope to get on a more regular schedule, at least every other week, putting out a podcast. I'm also trying to work on doing some videos. Just short videos on how I do things and different tips and tricks that I've found. Recently, I read a survey of 100 100-year-olds. So these are people who are at least 100 years old. They asked them several questions, but one interesting question that I found was, what is your biggest regret? Of course, they listed different things, but high up on the list was that these 100-year-old gentlemen said they didn't take enough risks. They were complacent. And after 100 years of life, they realized and had the perspective of, I wish I would have taken more risks. Now, I would suggest that uncalculated risks are dangerous. But if you've been sitting on the sideline wondering if you should start a private practice, you need to make that first step. You definitely need to do the research, but sometimes you just have to make the initiated step. You can spin your wheels and contemplate it for as long as you want, but don't get to 100 years of age and say, I wish I would have taken more risks. Now, I recently published my ebook to Amazon. I've had my ebook of Start and Run a Therapy Practice on my website for some time now, but I like to read things on my Kindle, and I know other people do too. So I wanted to go through the process of publishing my ebook on Amazon. You could still buy my ebook on my website at startatherapypractice.com/ebook. But if you have a Kindle or a Kindle app on your iPad or Android tablet and want to read it through the Kindle app, you can do that now. I would really love for you to give me a review on Amazon. Even if you bought my ebook through my website, you can go on Amazon and go to my book, Start and Run a Therapy Practice, and leave me an honest review. I'd love to see your feedback on Amazon, and I know it would help others in making their decision also. I've poked around on Amazon for some time now for ebooks similar to mine, and honestly, I don't see anything else out there like it. There are some good books about starting a therapy practice, but mine, as far as I can tell, is the most up-to-date as far as technical tools, websites to help you run and start a therapy practice. Most of the books out there on starting a therapy practice have good, timeless information as far as running a business, but there's nothing out there that I can see that gives you some up-to-date tools that will put your private practice over the top. So I'd love for you to take a look at it over there on Amazon and on my website. Now, of course, my ebook also has that timeless information about running a therapy business, but the modern technical tools is what puts it over the top. As I mentioned, I just finished moving one of my clinics, and I'm looking for my next project to help you out and to serve you better. I would love to get your input and feedback about what you would like to see me do next. I have all kinds of ideas in my head, but it occurred to me I should ask you what I should be working on. So some ideas that I have are putting together some sort of course or information about different subjects. And those subjects could include marketing, a business plan, a course or information about passive income. I know a lot of therapists are interested in generating some passive income. They don't mind working in their current position, or they might even have a private practice, but they want to do something on the side. And this is a great way to make that step into private practice sometimes, just to get your feet wet and doing something different with the skills that you have in therapy. I also recently have created a systems and procedure mechanism for my own therapy practice, and it occurred to me, I know other practices and other therapists who own private practices could really benefit from what I'm doing here as far as implementing systems to make my life easier, my job easier, and more proficient at running my private practice. So I've thought about putting information and a course together about implementing systems and procedures for your private practice. So that's my short list of projects that I have in the future. I would love for you to email me or send me a tweet of your vote of what you would like to see me work on next that could help you out. So email me your vote at scott@startatherapypractice.com, or you can send me a tweet. My Twitter handle is @ScottHarmon7. That's the number 7. So now I want to go to my interview with Paul Potter. As I mentioned, he's a physical therapist who's been in private practice for over 30 years. And Paul has his own podcast called the Functional Freedom Podcast. His goal and focus now is to help other physical therapists start and run a therapy practice. Obviously, with 30 plus years of experience, he has good knowledge to depart on other therapists who are interested. And he has such a great attitude and work ethic that I know if you took him up on it, you would greatly benefit. Paul's motto is win the day and finish strong. He's also going to share with us a tool that you can find on my website at startatherapypractice.com/28 that you can download that will help you market your private practice and generate more referrals. So be sure to go to the show notes of this episode and download that tool for free. We're joined today with Paul Potter. Paul is a physical therapist, and he has been in private practice for 30 years. He's owned and managed a private practice therapy clinic specializing in manual orthopedic rehabilitation and medical fitness programs for special populations. Paul has recently sold his practice and is going full-time in the online business of helping PTs create their dream practice and mentoring 2 physical therapists. Paul also hosts the podcast Functional Freedom, where he interviews current thought leaders on practice issues and strategies to facilitate the professional effectiveness of therapists. Thanks, Paul, for joining me today.
Oh, Scott, it's my pleasure. Love your podcast and love what you stand for. And like I said earlier, love how you're trying to help the profession and help therapists fill out their dreams.
I appreciate that. And you're doing great stuff over there at the Functional Freedom Podcast, doing the same thing. I always get inspired listening to you. And as I mentioned before, when we were talking before the show here, that Paul has the calming voice of everything's going to be okay. So if you're in private practice, or even if you're not, just, if you want to listen to Paul and know that everything's going to be okay, he'll reassure you in that manner.
That's encouraging. I could have repeated that mantra today. Everything's okay. Everything's okay.
Right. It's only it always tough for a little while, right? And it'll all be okay.
Well, I try to make it to lunch. And so, if I get a little bit of a lunch break, then we can start the second half of the day over, and then I'll make it.
It's like I told my son the other day when I think we were dealing with our 3-year-old. My son's 18, and she was giving us a hard time. And I said, the Marines had a saying that the only easy day was yesterday. So every day is kind of hard.
Enjoy the challenges, but sometimes it's a challenge.
Exactly. Paul, give us a little background as far as where you came from out of PT school, what you did, and what led you into private practice, and kind of how you ran your practice.
Well, I'm a Nebraska boy and had a couple key influences early on in life. The physical therapist in the hometown that I grew up in was just a great guy, just a great role model. Played tennis with him, and when you're thinking about, what do I want to be when I grow up? I was like, what a great guy. I'd like to be like him. And then my physiology instructor, anatomy instructor in high school was just a fantastic instructor. And always have loved kind of the biology and the biological sciences. So it just kind of planted a seed of the connecting those two together. I was in sports, so I said, I love the human body. I'm fascinated by that. Kenny is such a great guy. He's a physical therapist, and he was in practice. And the head trainer at the University of Nebraska football team was just a super guy, too. I said, that's what I'd like to be. And the other thing, I grew up, my dad owned a neighborhood grocery store for 30 years, so it was a small business, kind of a family-owned business. And the older you get, the more you realize how much you like your dad, the more you like it or not. And I always had a little bit, I'd like to be in business for myself. So in physical therapy, I just kind of gradually gravitate towards probably my strengths, which is I do better when I have challenges and achievements that I can kind of reach towards. I'm more of a decision maker. I like to make decisions, and I have kind of high responsibility. So I sense a need that if I'm going to be responsible for something, I want to be the one that made that decision. I just like the challenge of making things grow and taking an idea and make it grow. So I just, from early on, just gravitated towards running my own business, for better or worse.
Well, you've done it for quite a while, so it must have been for the better.
It's taken some different avenues. When I started, I probably did a lot wrong, but at least I was fairly conservative. I started out kind of with one treatment table, a folding chair, and a folding table outside kind of one treatment room. That probably makes sense to you a little bit starting out. So I started out really small and conservative and working 2 jobs to make it go, but there was just something in me that I wanted to just accept the challenge and be paid for how hard I worked. The harder I worked, the more I got paid, and that's worked out pretty well.
So when you first started out at a PT school, did you jump right into private practice, or did you do a little bit of work for some other people?
I'm kind of an odd guy. I never was a traditional physical therapist, and I had this hankering from early on that I really believed in prevention and wellness. Mm-hmm. So I had this physical therapy degree. And even while I was in school, I started a kind of a fitness center at the medical center gym, doing fitness testing. And that's right when wellness was coming about. And so that kind of tells you a little bit about my entrepreneur mindset. I don't know if we really even called it back then. I always had something like that going on, where I could take an idea and achieve something with it, So I got a chance to work for some family physicians down in Salina, Kansas, because a friend of mine was getting his PhD, and they need somebody to substitute him that. And he was an exercise physiologist and he worked for these very forward-thinking family physicians, doing stress testing, nutrition counseling, exercise prescription, all sorts of things, a little bit of athletic injuries. So he was going back to school, and they need somebody to take his place. So I went down there as a physical therapist, but he didn't practice physical therapy. So it's about 2 years out of school. So I had this foundation of family wellness, and got a chance to work with these doctors to do that. And so then eventually when I came back and got my master's, I just incorporated wellness and prevention into my practice. And I named the thing the Lincoln Wellness Center. So I started a private practice, and I didn't even put physical therapy in the name of the practice. So that's a big mistake. But I was fulfilling my dream. I made it. We made it grow, and it happened. But so I did orthopedic physical therapy, but I've always had that little bit of that interest in prevention and how do I teach people to take care of themselves. And now that's obviously that's what we got to do now in terms of rising costs, is to equip people to take care of themselves, stay out of the healthcare system. So just ahead of my time a little bit.
That's right. That's innovative. That's very good.
Yeah.
So as you grew that private practice, were you pretty successful at first as far as just being able to pay the bills? I talked to a number of private practice owners who, they think they can throw their sign up and everybody's going to flock to them, but then they realize, what, it's going to take a while to build up my caseload.
That was one thing my dad and mom taught us, is how to work really hard. So my family, my siblings, we all have a real strong work ethic. And so while I was getting my practice started a couple days a week, like maybe, it's typically like Monday and Wednesday. The other 3 or 4 days I was hopping over to the hospital, working full time there, and fill in work because we're short on help. And then I would run back over and treat a patient and then run back over and get some more hours. And the key to that is marry well, because my wife put up with that, and she's a saver and not a spender. So we just always kind of kept the overhead down while I was experimenting. And like I said, we just didn't start out with much, with a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of great support with the people that I was around. And it just slowly built it up. So that would be maybe something that would be a benefit, and one of the things I feel that is important is to niche down that practice and find what you really are passionate about. And for me, it was kind of wellness through physical therapy, but I really kept overhead down. So I was really able to sublease some space, which is basically one room, and my office or my desk was out in the hall, but it really kept the overhead down, and we just saved a lot.
There's some points there I want to highlight. You said a few things that were very important as far as number one, keeping costs down. I think a lot of people in general, they want to they want to come out flashy. They want to show off all of their toys and, their nice facility. But to do that before you actually have a caseload to pay for it is detrimental. You're going to ruin yourself real quick. So I like that message as far as start small, keep costs down. The other one is the work ethic. It takes a lot of work. I mean, I'm sure you were putting in some 12-hour days at some point in your private practice, if not multiple points. And the other one was to find a niche, to find something that you enjoy doing, because you're going to be doing it for a while. I mean, you've done it for 30 years. So those are very important points that I don't want people just to skip over.
Yeah, I think now more than ever, Scott, because of the margins, because of the cutbacks and reimbursement, like we were talking earlier, back in the old days, and I do have gray hair, I send the bill in and they used to pay it. The insurance company would just pay what I sent in. We had to type it on a form and all that, but it was just kind of simpler then. And I just don't think the margins are there for that middle-sized clinic at the beginning. So I think it just really reduces the pressure on somebody to kind of small at the beginning, niche down, and do maybe a cooperative, or find some way that you can keep those expenses down. And really, when it comes down to it, to a certain degree, it's your thinking, it's your ability to reason, ability to relate well to patients, educate them, and hopefully kind of with some hands-on treatment that's exceptional. And that's what, again, one of my building blocks that I try to help therapists, just have to be an expert. Especially if you're going in private practice, but I think even a hospital-based therapist people are really looking for expertise, somebody they can trust, and it's really competitive. So if you want to stand out above the crowd and get heard above the noise, you really have to develop your proficiency. And mine, I think it's really good to do that on what you are passionate about. So as you get out there and find that, I really like working with these patients. The time just flies by when I work with these ideal patients. I love doing this. That's what I would build my practice around, and start getting really proficient at that and doing what you need to do to become an expert. And people will gravitate toward people that they trust, relate well, but that get people better. And as you do that, they will tell their friends, which are also maybe ideal clients that you want to work with, about you, and that will help with your marketing and help grow that practice.
Now, in your practice, being in private practice for 30 years, I'm interested in what you know about marketing before and after the internet.
Great question. And that's been one of the things that I've been trying to think through is what are those underlying principles that are still true today as it was back then that are consistent. And then the medium has changed, the ability to connect changed, which has brought its own challenges as well. Relationships, I would look at that as consistent, as good quality relationships with physicians. We still need a referral strategy that, as you say, well, I'm strategic on who I build long-term positive relationships with. I think it's very important with peers. I think it's very important with physicians. I would call that my referral strategy. So let's just say now, post-internet, I would say, we would need to have an internet strategy. With that, when I think of that, I think, the internet, I connect with my peers globally. But now more than ever, and I think in the future, is connecting directly to the consumers. Mm-hmm. Because if we're in private practice, there's this defined definition of cash-based practice. Well, I say, gosh, if we have a $5,000-$6,000 deductible, like a guy came in today, I was treating him for his back, and he's got $800 left on his deductible for his back. Well, it's cash-based practice.
Yeah.
So it is. It's coming out of his pocket. So
yep.
we say, how do we help you steward your resources? That could go to the MRI that he had yesterday. Yeah. Well, he just met his deductible, or you're going to be investing ahead. So how do I develop a relationship with him? How do I sell my services and market my service to that individual? Because he's exchanging my services for cash. When I think of the internet, I think of how do I help physical therapists build their own PT platform to reach out through the internet and make connections with that potential consumer out there. They are competing. The competition is fierce. We are competing with other physical therapists, but we're competing with other professionals, individuals that are providing, quote, physical therapy services. Chiropractors for sure, massage therapists, personal trainers. The internet is also who we are in direct competition. So that's the competition. How are you going to rise above that and make a connection with that individual prospective patient that's looking for someone to trust, someone that will answer their questions, and someone to purchase their services from?
The point you made about relationships is of utmost importance. I mean, essentially, another word you could use for it is networking. But to have those personal relationships is very important, especially with whoever's referring to you or a potential referrer. And everybody is a potential referrer, whether it be a client that you're seeing or just somebody you meet in the grocery store. I want you to expand on this a little bit also as far as marketing is part of a business skill, and business skills are not something that therapists learn in a physical therapy school or OT school. We don't learn those skills unless you go and get an MBA somewhere. You're not going to pick those up. So what would you suggest to that physical therapist, OT, who's contemplating a practice or just started one, and they need to pick up some business skills pretty quick?
Well, I can answer that, Scott, and you could tell me, we can converse on that. But I've been working with a couple physical therapists, three of them, and I would say it's just kind of a mentoring type relationship. We'd say coaching, but it's just what do I know that can kind of help you take the next step in developing a career that you love and that if I can help individuals love what they do, I'm helping the patients that they treat, and collectively we're making our profession stronger. So I'm helping one private practice and another in a hospital setting and another one in a hospital setting. And the first part of it, it's an attitudinal shift. If you don't shift your attitude and your perspective as saying, oh, that's really not my job. It's the marketing department, or it's who in our private practice, it's their job to market the practice. You really have to make a shift that it is your practice, your personal PT brand. It's your personal PT practice. How do I make myself known to potential patients that need me and want me? I have a personal belief that we have a calling to help certain people. There are certain people out there that match up well with my personality, my communication style, my skill set, my values. And as we reach out to them, we connect, and those are the people I'm meant to serve. Well, if they don't know I exist, they're going to go somewhere else. And sometimes people trying to find their way through the healthcare system now more than ever is confusing. I'm doing them a disservice by not doing my work so they can find me. I can be the most passionate therapist. I can be the best expert. I can have a great product and a service to give them. They don't know I exist if they can't find me. They're going to go somewhere else. And if I don't see that my personal practice, the livelihood of that, the energy of that, the enjoyment of that is me developing how do I reach out, develop meaningful relationships. So how I would do that. Does that make sense? Go ahead.
No, that's good. And I like your point of we're in the service business, so we need to be service minded and want to help people. That's all. That's why we went into this line of business is to help people out and help them feel better physically. But to have the attitude, I think you mentioned there, of service. How can I help this person? And it's not necessarily even just the client who's in front of me. If we're thinking about networking or relationships, we need to be that helper out in the community, out in our local community. How can I help this person? And it might be, you know what, I see this guy on the side of the road in the neighbor's parking lot next to my clinic. I could help him out. And that might be a relationship or a networking opportunity that leads to other things. I think it's more of a mindset, like you said, of always networking, always building relationships. And when you're a physical therapist or an OT or a therapist in a clinic that you don't own, or a hospital or whatever, you don't have that mindset. You have the mindset of helping your patients. But once you own that practice, you have to put the hat. You're wearing a lot of hats, so you have to put the hat on of a marketer, and you're always looking for marketing opportunities. Which the best marketing opportunity is a relationship with someone who potentially could refer to you.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Underneath that is so an attitude shift and a kind of an understanding shift. So I have met very few therapists that aren't very good at making relationships with patients. I mean, the business, our livelihood depends on that. So I define marketing as the act of building long-lasting connections with people. So if you say, what I want to do is I want to build a meaningful connection, a long-lasting meaningful connection, we have to have an understanding shift is, somebody showed my door, I do my service, and then they're gone, and we wait for the next incident. If you say, I want to build a long-term connection with this patient to be a resource for them, help them with what I have to help them over a long period of time, the internet allows that connection to happen easier. That's marketing. So, an example like this hospital that I'm working with, the therapists, we've had this conversation, and they basically decentralized their inpatient marketing, inpatient program. It's They have they're outpatient. So at the hospital, they don't really have an outpatient PT anymore. They've decentralized it. So they have satellite clinics throughout the city now. And those are all separate entities. They're almost like they're acting as a private practice now. And the VP says, you need to do your own marketing. So you have therapists that have not had to do any business at all to say, okay, now I have to develop those business skills of marketing. What I was saying then, well, how do we start with their strengths? I says, I can't imagine after a therapist gets done with the patient says, would you mind, I have this Facebook page. Would you mind if we connected a little bit? If you want, you can go to my Facebook page and I put helpful information on that you might find helpful there. It's that therapist's personal business page. Or, we have this email list. If you want, we can keep in connection. And if I see an article that's relevant to your particular case, if you want, you don't have to give me permission, but if you give me permission, would you mind if I just emailed you relevant health information and we kept in connection? And if you had some problems, you could kind of email. I don't know if very many therapists would say, no, I don't want to do that. Yeah. I want to sit in a doctor's office or take lunch for staff, sit there for an hour to get maybe 2 minutes with the doctor. They say they hate that. I hate that. Mm-hmm. But I love meaningful, long-term relationships with my physicians that are my friends. Mm-hmm. And when they say, oh, this patient is a good match for Paul, it's good for that patient and it's a good relationship, then they refer. That's marketing. If we can get that mindset, we're good at it already. It's building upon a therapist's strength. So hopefully that was relevant. So that's what I would suggest is skipping over the old way of relying on a middleman, whether it be the insurance salesman or the physicians, to define our value and to sell ourselves to that majority. I'd say I'd skip over that, stop doing that, and go try to connect with the consumers that are paying for it anyway.
Mm-hmm. That's very good stuff as far as the relationship. And because I've sat in a few doctors' lunches, and the doctor may or may not show up for your lunch, and that's, you've just forked over, whatever, $150 to feed this doctor's office. I've only done that maybe a couple times because I found it so frustrating.
About 2006, 2008, we've been tracking and probing. So this would be another, ask the question behind the question. So like today, I see a patient today, well, how did you end up here? I keep asking and asking. Well, and it turns out she was at a nursing home taking care of patients. And one of their patients, one of the residents, came to our clinic. So we track self-referrals. So it might have the physician's name on it, but the patient goes into the doctor and requests to have physical therapy and come to our office. We saw 2 patients today. We do a free balance screening. Saw a previous patient. We sent out letters to previous patients, and on our balance screening, and we got a tremendous response. Our referrals are up 22%. So this husband and wife came in today. We screened them, find some balance deficiencies. They are going to go to their doctor and ask them for a referral to come to our office. Now, the referral might have the doctor's name on it, but that patient made that referral based upon the relationship and us serving them and the trust we build with them. They are going to their doctor with a request, will you send me to physical therapy? That makes up 60% of our referrals. That is our lifeblood. Now, we've cultivated that in a small community, but people are going to their doctor requesting that they come to our office. If we wait for them to see the orthopedic doctor and the orthopedic doctor says, where would you like to go? And hands them a sheet, or we have a physical therapy clinic in our office, they are streamlined from the orthopedic surgeon right into the hospital PT. But if we have a previous relationship with that patient and have kept in touch and stayed top of mind, when that orthopedic surgeon says, where would you like to go? Here's a list of the clinics in town. They'd say, I'd like to go to Paul's clinic. Mm-hmm. He's a nice guy. He helped me before. Well, we've had some, if we haven't kept in contact, they forget at that moment. And they just flow downstream into the PT department downstairs. So that's what I'd be reaching at. And we've seen the benefit. That's the lifeblood of our referral system. And I just don't do that marketing to physicians anymore. I build relationships with physicians.
It's a very good point, a very good illustration of that point. When you reach out to the example you gave there was to send out letters to previous clients that you're offering a balance screening. Are there other follow-up ways? I've recently implemented that in my own clinic as far as clients that we've discharged, is just to reach out to them and personally thank them for, choosing our practice and, to let us know what they thought about their experience, just to, improve upon it. And I think just the reaching out and a personal letter like that, I think is very good. It sounds like y'all are doing that pretty well.
Yeah. And I think we've gone from letters to postcards. And then on this one, we sent out a letter. So I wrote it very benefit oriented. It was a free offer that they could come at any time for just a 20-minute screen. And then I put in 2 just really simple brochures. This is how you screen your home for fall risk. And then here's a checklist to see if you're at a fall risk. So I provided free information, no pressure, wasn't salesy or sleazy. It was just, hey, here's a screen that you could do. And people, it was our population tends to be a little older. As soon as they got the letter, they called their physician and asked for a referral.
That's how it's supposed to work.
I didn't come in for the free screening. It was like they show up with a referral, and
that's even better.
Give an example. Yeah. So and for that particular population, we just found that said, there are, and really it isn't a sales thing. As we did that free screening, we started finding people that were at high risk. We found people that were scared to death that they're going to fall. We screened out somebody that had Parkinson's. We saw him today. He was just afraid to walk through the door. That guy's life is different. Mm. He walks so much better. Well, he was sitting in home, depressed, didn't know where to go, had gotten the medication, but functionally, he didn't know what to do. Well, he got in touch with the physical therapy, got involved in a big program. He's an athlete from way back when. He loved it. This morning, you can see I'm passionate about what I do. But we watched him walk across the parking lot, and that guy's life has changed. He walks so much better. Well, now, how did that happen? That happened because we sent out a letter for free balance screening, and his girlfriend brought him in. And the guy's life has changed. So that's what I mean. There are people out there that you're meant to serve. And if you don't reach out to them and learn that, I think as therapists, we're doing them a disservice. We have them what to do. We are missing the people that need to serve. And they're going to other places and getting less quality, less personal intervention that really doesn't meet their need. Mm-hmm. That guy didn't need more tests done. He didn't need more medication. He needed personal help on how to move, function, and get to a depressed state and get on with his life. And we provided the means for that. And there are literally thousands of people out there that are in that situation that would pay for our services.
That's a cool story. That's why we do what we do, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And really, that's why we do what we do. The money and all that, that's part of it, the business. But to see that life change, literally, see that guy's life change is so much fun. I mean, it's so rewarding. And that's when we start back, if building a foundation to discover your passion, you love to work with. Why do you love being a therapist? What is that why you went to school and paid the price to do that? Find those patients that have that element in there and build your practice around.
Mm-hmm. I want to back up because you mentioned tracking your marketing numbers. And I think that's very important as far as what, to be able to tell what's working and to what degree it's working. And also because what you track, the numbers that you track, then you can start to improve on those numbers, and what you track naturally will improve. So tell me how you're going about doing the tracking of your marketing.
You can see after 2006, 2008, as we've kind of molded and learned that, what comes to my mind is my front office person, Chris. She's developed a intuitive sense. So my first is to be able to get behind the question. So people are coming in with a need. They really don't know how to articulate that. And also you have to kind of just keep asking questions to get to why they came and the influences on that. Because it's hard to do that as a physical therapist. So that's the first part, is work together with your front office staff to start writing those things down. So I'd have kind of like a spreadsheet, and we would have the referral source, and then we start tracking what were some of these other influences of why they came in. But as soon as I start measuring that and work with her, say, no, this is really important. We have a lot of things that we're doing, but I would really want you to keep track of that. And then what I did is that we developed that. You'd say I held her accountable, but we went over it. It says, I want you to do this, but if you never look at it and never really paid attention to it, then it's not important. And the staff picks up that it's not important. If you can train them on that fine tuning, then they start to buy into it and start to influence patients so that they will tell other people. So that's the first thing. And we go over that every month. We'll go through the referrals. Why did they come here? And that's part of her statistics that she keeps track of, the metrics of that. That's a key one. The next one we're going to is how do we apply that same principle to like a website, where we're trying to help people become our browsers to the website that will take action, like call the office for a consultation to talk to the therapist, and then track them that, this is, and the internet makes that harder to do, to get web page visitors, and then you get the call to action, and they go from a call to action to where they finally walk through the front door. I think the internet and the web has created a greater opportunity to do that, and it's more cost effective.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You got to have a website.
An interactive website, and you have to have a call to action, and what we've kind of started settling on is one of our best marketing is if a person has a question. So people have questions. Gee, is this really the best investment for me? And there's all these options. If you really want to market, say, well, you can have a free phone call with a therapist. And we schedule those on Tuesdays and Thursdays in the downtime. And the best marketing is for a therapist to answer patients' questions and not be pushy or salesy, just be themselves. And if we can go from there to a free phone call to say, if you want to go the next step, we'll take your insurance information because you've got questions there. We'll qualify and help you understand what your insurance will pay for or not pay for. You can come in for a no risk kind of evaluation to meet face to face with the therapist. That was free, but you have to reserve that with your credit card, and it's a $65 fee if you don't show. So they've gone from, I get to talk to somebody for a short period of time. I kind of like them to say, I'm willing to take another step of commitment to go to that office, and we ask for a guarantee to that because we just don't want them to not show up in the therapist's, block out the time. And have no shows. We have a guarantee there to kind of limit the no show. If they don't want to keep coming, there's no charge to their credit card. It's just a free visit, and we're willing to give that time away. And we have found the therapist doesn't have to do anything different than what they normally do. They sit down in front of the patient, be a great physical therapist. We outline, this is what we can do for you. This is what you need to do for yourself. This is how much it costs. This is how long it would be. You decide what you want. it's like an 80% conversion.
Yeah, I like that idea.
If we can get to the door, it's a done deal.
Yeah.
But you have to have those steps, free information, maybe free phone call, and then asking the commitment. You don't want to ask them to make a big commitment. Some are ready for that, but a lot of them want to have those in between steps.
Yeah.
Is that helpful?
No, that's very good. That's very good. Because, yeah, you're not going 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. You're kind of leading them a little bit slower into the process, and that's more comfortable. It's, to make the conversion, as you said. Very good.
And Chris is my secretary. When they call, we've gone over this and over this. It's like we've got a great relationship. So, she cares. She knows how vital it is. Plus, we look at it at the end of the month. She knows over the years I care about it, so it's accountable. So she's taken a kind of authority and taken pride in what she does. Well, when they call, she is awesome because it's almost like I would do it. But then she does the insurance thing, and she's so warm, and it's not salesy. It's just, how do we serve you? Mm-hmm. What are your needs? Yeah, she believes in what we do, and tries to make it easy and comfortable for them to make that next step of commitment. Mm-hmm. When they come in the front door, oh, Janet, thanks for coming in. I talked on the phone. Well, who would not want that? I say, oh no, I want to go somewhere else. If I don't know, it just sets up the whole expectation and satisfaction.
Yep, it's that relationship.
Amen. Yep.
Paul, before we run out of time, I want us to switch gears a little bit because you have a nice little tool for an iPad that is functional outcome testing. Tell us a little bit about what your iPad app does and how it could help a physical therapist.
I'm glad to. The fundamental principle underneath it is there's 2 reasons why I developed this app a couple of years ago. Number one was when I sat down to do G codes, kind of the typical steps. Okay, here's somebody in, I got to do this. Where's the paper? So I got to go back to the file, get the test for that patient, go get the stopwatch, get the chair set up, go through it, get the recording, go back to my desk, look up at the norms, pull it up, put it into my EMR. It drove me nuts. It says, this is crazy. This takes so much time just to do the paperwork of this. Well, being in solo practice for so long, I just had this low tolerance to inefficiency that don't make sense because I didn't have time to do it. I had 15 hats to wear, and either you figured out how to do it efficiently or you die. So, I said, I'm going to see if we can create an app that makes this much easier. And I like to take an idea, and a friend of mine was a developer. So basically what we did is we created a PT app that's a utility. We started out as it's EMR and all that. We just said, oh no, we're going simple, stay away from the rules and regulations. So basically the app is a counter, it's a stopwatch, and it's a calculator. So you pull it up, like say we do the sit to stand, and you say, okay, you explain it to them. Here's what it is. It has the explanation there. And you say, ready, set, go. And you hit the stopwatch and it starts it. And it has a counter, so you count how many reps they do. And then when the stopwatch stops, you hit stop and you hit display results, and it shows you their score compared to what the standard is, and it gives you the G code and the impairment rating.
Handy.
And you can do, so no more rushing to my desk to look on the wall and figure out now which code is that? Is that CL? Is that CJ? It just shows right there. So I can do that on any number of things that I do. And after each one of them, I can say save to email, save to email, save to email. And then what we do is we say send email, and it sends it to my email address. So then I go back to my workstation, get in my email account, get into my EMR. I pull up that results, I copy and paste it into my record. And I have it right there, and I choose the G code and the severity rating like that. So that's part of that. The other part. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I like that shortcut, and what's cool about it is the private practice therapist is the one who invents that. Nobody else is going to think about that. If you're in a big corporate world, they're probably not going to think about that, how to cut that corner and make that job easier. They're just going to take the time to do it. But that's awesome that you built that.
The reality is we are way down on the food chain of software development. They're going to go for the big bucks, big hospitals, the rehab department, refining it so it really helps the physical therapists do their job efficiently is way, way down there. So, and some of this software program makes our jobs so much harder because they're very menu driven and scroll down. It takes so much time.
Yep.
So what I did is I started from the therapy standpoint and say, how can I help that? And I said, well, it only takes you 5 minutes. I said, well, I've got a caseload of geriatric patients. Let's say I do 10 of those a day. And it just takes me 5 more minutes to do that. That's an hour extra just to be compliant with that. That hour is my lunch hour, or that hour is at night with my family.
Yep.
I do it in 30 seconds. So if you learn that lesson is how do I find the things I do repetitively? I'm getting fired up here, as you can see. Those things I do repetitively, if I could streamline that, it saves me a ton of time.
On the simplicity of it, that's awesome. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And we're in version 2.0, but that's kind of where it started because it drove me crazy and it works great for me. I'm having a therapist try it out, and then I just got an email today that a professor up in Michigan is going to try it out with some students up in Michigan.
Cool.
My second, and I'll get off this, but the second thing is a principle is defend your value. Physical therapists, we have to defend our value. People say we have to prove our value. We have to defend numbers or metrics. And it looks like functional outcomes is going to be one of the means in terms of the continuity of care and the continuity of the document that goes across. Functional outcome numbers are what we're going to prove our value. I think it's very important for physical therapists to prove their own individual value of the practice that they do with their patients. Not the clinic value, not the clinic numbers, but your individual number.
That's a good point. I've said it before that it's the therapist that treats the client, not the clinic.
Absolutely. And like I say, I get fired up with this stuff. But I have never set out goals, meaningful goals, to improve an Oswestry score. It's external to my thought process. But if I can say, I want to help this person improve their timed up and go because it helps them with their functional mobility that carries over to their life, and it is so easy to measure. I can do that as part of my treatment. It carries over into my goals, carries over into my treatment program. It's hard for me to translate an Oswestry score, any type of index, a dash, a left scale. It's hard for me to translate that into a meaningful goal and a meaningful treatment program that changes that. I get stoked when I see those numbers change, and the patient sees those numbers change. We expect them to be motivated. I say, well, this is how we keep score. We keep score by these tests. These are your results. If you show them that they're keeping score, it increases their motivation because it's, I want my score to go up. Finally, I know what I'm being measured on. I understand it. I can understand. You want me to walk faster, and I can understand. Oh, that helps me get across the street. I get run over by a car. They sit there and fill out the Oswestry, and they're out there in the waiting room. And I said, oh, God, how long is that going to take? Come on, I have 15 minutes, and they're on question 6, And then they get it, and I help them, and I said, are you better? Yeah, this is so much helpful. And, oh, you've been so good, thanks. I have them do the Oswestry score, and it's worse.
Oh, my goodness.
Because you don't know how to fill it out. That is absurd to me. That's demotivating. But if I can see somebody functionally get better, I says, oh, I'm making a meaningful difference, and I can defend that. If somebody says, well, is what you do is valuable? I says, here's my numbers. Can you understand that? They couldn't get up out of a chair, and now they can get up out of a chair. I can defend my value based on those numbers. And I think that's very important. Yeah.
Makes it very concrete.
Yeah. I think that's at some point, third-party payers are kind of somewhat look for that. Sure. And I think that's probably a good basic way to go that doesn't sell our soul.
Yes. That's important.
That we're going to design our practice around passing. So we're passing their tests. And it's kind of like the teachers, where we teach to pass standardized tests. Mm-hmm. We forget about that people learn different, children learn different, and we stop being good teachers. I think therapists run that risk to say, oh, I've got to do therapy to pass the standardized tests and really forget about these patients and the meaningful change it is in their lives. It keeps them out of nursing homes. I think we have to hold on to that. I think the functional outcomes on those performance tests is probably the best way to do that.
It's a good analogy. Well, Paul, we're going to have to wrap this up, but I want you to tell everybody where they can get a hold of you. I'm also going to put links in the show notes to the Functional Freedom Podcast and to your website. So if someone wanted to get a hold of you, what would be the best way?
Well, get onto my email list, because that's where we can have a conversation. So you can go to my website, paulpotterpt.com, and there's a sign up for the email list. I'd love to start a conversation. That's the best way to get in the flow of this, and I'll help you in any way I can. My email is real easy to remember too. It's heypaul at paulpotterpt.com. So if you have a question, if I can help you with some of the topics that we talked about, that's the best way to get in contact with me.
Excellent. Hey, Paul. Yes, I remember seeing that email come across. I was like, that's a good email.
Hey, that happens all the time. So this is all in my email address.
Well, Paul, I really appreciate you visiting with us today and all the information. And I want to encourage everybody to go over to your website, and hopefully we can visit again down the road.
It was my pleasure. And I hopefully it wasn't too passionate, but it's kind of cool after almost 35 years of being in this. I still love being a physical therapist, and you can tell I'm still passionate and care about these things. And I really do believe in what you're doing in terms of starting your own therapy practice. I really do believe the significant impact of one individual following their passion with therapy. It can make a significant difference. It might not seem in the big picture, but when we collectively put that all together, I think that's one of the best ways to have impact in this healthcare system is in private practice, or even if you don't get paid that way, that you view yourself in private practice as an entrepreneur, even if you work for an organization. And my site, I'm just trying to spread the word and help provide resources and help in a way to help therapists live out their dream practice.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate the encouragement on this end for sure. Sometimes we all need a little encouragement.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a great work we do, and we serve people. It's easy to get discouraged and feel like we're not making a difference and making a dent in things. So we need each other to encourage one another. And you encourage me, so thanks for letting me be on your show.
Oh, I'm happy to have you on here, and we'll do it again. This has been great. I mean, we could talk for another 2 hours, I'm sure.
Well, I'm starting that new journey come January. And,
yes, that's right.
It'd be great to touch base and see if I have a little zip into my voice. I might not be so excited or passionate.
Oh, you'll be even more passionate then.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate it, Paul, and we'll talk to you soon.
My pleasure.
All right. Thank you. I want to thank you for listening today. I really enjoyed visiting with Paul. Like I said, he is one of the good guys, and it really encourages me to step up my game to better serve my fellow man in my clinic and through this podcast and my website. So I appreciate you listening in today. As I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, please send me an email or a tweet about what you would like to see me work on next, whether it be marketing, systems and procedures for your private practice, or passive income, or anything else. Just send me an email. It doesn't have to be long, a one-liner of, hey, Scott, work on this. And you can definitely offer your own suggestions. My email is scott@startatherapypractice.com. You can also tweet it to me. My handle there is @ScottHarmon7, the number 7. Thanks again for listening, and never stop learning. And don't get to the age of 100 and not take that calculated risk, but make sure that it is calculated. Thanks again, and we'll talk soon.